You hear people talk about Michigan like it is one place, but if you actually live here, you know that is not true at all. The numbers are brutal. One part of the state is growing and building, another is stuck in aging suburbs and traffic, and whole counties further north are quietly emptying out. And those differences decide who gets jobs, schools, roads, and who gets left behind over the next few decades. In this video, I will break Michigan into the 3 states people really live in, using population, economy, and migration data instead of just lines on a map. By the end, you will see exactly which Michigan you are in, why it feels so different from the others, and what that means for the state's future. Michigan appears on the map as one unified state, but population patterns tell a very different story. Nearly all Michiganders live in the Lower Peninsula, in cities and suburbs that form a dense web around Detroit, Lansing, Grand Rapids, Ann Arbor, and the Lakeshore counties. Meanwhile, the Upper Peninsula contains an enormous share of the state's land, yet has only a tiny fraction of the population. Its forests, long distances, and lightly settled townships make it feel more like a remote frontier than a continuation of the downstate landscape. When you look at a population map, the Upper Peninsula barely appears at all compared to the glowing concentration of people in the South. This imbalance alone creates the feeling of 2 states layered on top of one another. One is populous and connected, the other vast and nearly empty. Most Michiganders never see this divide firsthand, but it shapes life across the entire state. Metro Detroit, a shrinking giant that still dominates the state. Metro Detroit remains the economic and cultural anchor of Michigan, even though the city proper has dramatically declined in population over the decades. The surrounding suburbs, industrial corridors, and logistics hubs continue to hold a huge share of the state's residents and jobs. This creates a Michigan defined by freeways, corporate headquarters, auto plants, and sprawling suburban communities that stretch outward for miles. Daily life here revolves around commutes, large school districts, and infrastructure built for millions of people. The region carries the weight of Michigan's automotive legacy, both its triumphs and its long-term challenges. Neighborhood decline, shifting industries, and aging infrastructure shape its politics and outlook in ways that are different from anywhere else in Michigan. This forms the first of the state's hidden identities, a massive metropolitan region that dominates the narrative, even as its population landscape continues to transform. West Michigan, the quiet second state with its own boom. West Michigan has emerged as a completely different kind of success story. Centered around Grand Rapids and nearby counties, the region has enjoyed steady growth fueled by diverse industries such as office furniture, manufacturing, healthcare systems, food production, design firms, and tourism. The area feels far removed from the struggles associated with the old Rust Belt image. Streetscapes are revitalized, suburbs are expanding, and universities feed a growing workforce. Communities along the lakeshore combine vibrant small city culture with scenic coastlines that attract families and new businesses. While not as large as Metro Detroit, this region forms a second Michigan that is economically healthy, socially stable, and increasingly influential. People living here often feel disconnected from Detroit's challenges and do not see themselves reflected in the broader narrative of decline. Instead, they experience a Michigan that is rising quietly and confidently on its own terms. The Upper Peninsula, 1/3 of the land, few residents. The Upper Peninsula represents the 3rd Michigan. It is almost nothing like the other 2. It covers a vast portion of the state's total territory, yet remains lightly populated with many counties home to only small towns and aging communities. Decades of decline in mining, logging, and manufacturing left the region with limited job opportunities, leading many young people to leave in search of education and work elsewhere. The distance between towns is large, the winters long and intense, and the landscape is dominated by forests, lakes, and rocky terrain. Life here operates at a different pace, shaped by isolation, harsh climate, and strong local traditions. The result is a Michigan that feels more like rural northern Minnesota or remote parts of Wisconsin than anything resembling downstate living. For many residents outside the region, the Upper Peninsula might as well be a distant separate state. Three different economies: autos, furniture, and forests. Michigan's economy is not a single unified machine. Instead, it splits into distinct regional engines. In the southeast, the auto industry, along with logistics and heavy manufacturing, still shapes daily life and employment. Corporate headquarters, steel plants, and supply chain networks form the backbone of the Detroit metropolitan area. In the west, manufacturing mixes with services, medical research, education, and a thriving tourism sector. This combination creates stability and growth that does not depend on a single dominant industry. In the north, especially the Upper Peninsula, the economy relies on seasonal tourism, small-scale forestry operations, outdoor recreation, and government or tribal employment. These differences create entirely separate economic realities. While one region experiences growth, another may face stagnation or decline. The three economies behave independently, producing different opportunities, expectations, and political tensions across the state. Population change. Michigan is following three different paths. Communities around Grand Rapids, Ann Arbor, and some outer suburbs of Detroit continue to grow as employers expand and young families settle in. Meanwhile, large portions of the northern Lower Peninsula show little growth, with towns that have remained the same size for generations. These areas are largely stable and face long-term challenges. The most dramatic declines occur in the Upper Peninsula, where many counties have been shrinking for half a century. This region is steadily shrinking, facing resource limitations and aging populations. These diverging trajectories create distinct demographic futures. One Michigan is gaining people and building new neighborhoods. One remains stable but vulnerable to long-term challenges, and one is steadily emptying out. The map makes this divide undeniable, revealing a state that is unified on paper but moving in three different demographic directions. Three climates, three ways of life. Climate separates Michigan into regions as dramatically as culture or economy. The southern part of the state enjoys comparatively mild weather, longer warm seasons, and large urban heat islands that reduce winter severity. This climate supports dense cities, agriculture, and year-round construction. The northern Lower Peninsula experiences colder winters and stronger seasonal tourism. Its identity is tied to lakeshore resorts, dunes, forests, and recreational second homes. The Upper Peninsula exists in a harsher climate altogether. Winters are long, snow is heavy, and travel requires navigating icy roads for months at a time. Construction seasons are shorter, and heating demands are higher. These differences influence everything from daily routines to industry viability. A resident in Detroit, Traverse City, and Marquette may all live in Michigan, but the climate shapes their lives as if they lived in entirely different states. Urban, suburban, and frontier. Michigan's hidden settlement map. Michigan's settlement pattern forms three distinct zones. In and around Detroit and its inner suburbs, the landscape is dense and heavily built, filled with large commercial corridors, extensive transit infrastructure, and layers of housing development. West Michigan features medium-sized metros with vibrant downtowns, connected suburban communities, and relatively short distances between services. The Upper Peninsula resembles a frontier region, where townships cover enormous areas and daily travel requires far longer drives. A resident might need an hour or more to reach a major hospital, a college campus, or a full-service grocery store. These differences affect access to education, healthcare, employment, and recreation. They create separate lifestyles that extend far beyond personal choice. Without crossing any official boundary, you can move from an urban environment to a frontier landscape simply by driving north across the bridge. Three very different age pyramids. Demographic structures reveal another invisible border. The Upper Peninsula has a significantly older population, with many counties where retirees and older adults make up a large share of residents. This pattern reflects decades of youth outmigration and limited job opportunities. West Michigan holds a more balanced mix of young families, working-age adults, and older residents, contributing to its economic stability and school enrollment growth. Metro Detroit contains large numbers of younger people, including school-aged children and young adults, yet it also has neighborhoods affected by long-term poverty that shape population patterns differently. These contrasting age profiles mean each region faces distinct challenges. The Upper Peninsula focuses on aging services and workforce shortages. West Michigan plans for growth and education needs. Metro Detroit navigates a complex mix of youth-oriented services and redevelopment pressures. These differences reinforce the feeling of separate regional identities. Economic well-being varies sharply across Michigan's regions. The Upper Peninsula experiences higher poverty rates and lower median incomes compared to the state average, especially in counties historically dependent on mining or logging. Metro Detroit and Flint contain pockets of deep economic distress due to deindustrialization, job loss, and long-term population decline. At the same time, some suburban counties near Detroit rank among the more affluent in the Midwest. West Michigan offers a contrasting picture with counties that maintain strong incomes, steady job creation, and low poverty levels thanks to diversified economies and expanding industries. These differences are not simply urban versus rural. They represent three distinct maps of opportunity and constraint, each producing its own social and political landscape. Residents experience Michigan's economy in ways that reflect their region far more than any statewide average. Culture and identity, Uppers, Metro residents, and Lake people. Cultural identity further divides Michigan into three informal states. In the Upper Peninsula, residents embrace a strong regional pride shaped by history, European heritage, rugged landscapes, and a feeling of distance from Lansing and Detroit. Many consider themselves Uppers before calling themselves Michiganders. Metro Detroit expresses a very different cultural identity, with diverse communities, strong ties to automotive heritage, large immigrant populations, and a suburban lifestyle built around mobility and industry. West Michigan and the northern Lower Peninsula maintain a lake-centered culture rooted in small city life, tourism, recreation, and a calmer pace. These identities rarely intersect, and people from each region often describe the others as living entirely different experiences. Shared laws and borders cannot erase how these cultural divisions shape daily life and perceptions of what Michigan truly is. Tourism state, industrial state, retirement state. Michigan's three regions play different roles within the broader economy. The northern Lower Peninsula and the Upper Peninsula function as the tourism engine, drawing visitors to state parks, forests, lakes, and coastal towns. Metro Detroit remains the industrial heart, with manufacturing, logistics, and union history influencing everything from city planning to political attitudes. The Upper Peninsula increasingly resembles a retirement region as young adults leave and older residents settle into a quieter lifestyle supported by seasonal tourism. These competing roles shape infrastructure needs, local budgets, and economic strategies. A tourism region requires investment in recreation and natural preservation. An industrial region demands transportation networks and workforce housing. A retirement region needs healthcare access and age-related services. Together, they form a state with three identities layered into one map. Where people move, who leaves which, Michigan. Migration patterns show how Michigan continues to split in practice. Many young adults raised in the Upper Peninsula move south for college or employment. They rarely return because opportunities are limited. Some Metro Detroit counties lose people to other states and to nearby suburbs, reflecting long-term urban decline. Meanwhile, outer ring suburbs and parts of West Michigan attract new arrivals from within Michigan and from across the country. The reasons vary. Some seek economic stability, others search for better schools or safer neighborhoods, and others want the lifestyle associated with lakeshore towns or growing mid-sized cities. These migration streams shift population and political influence over time, gradually redrawing the balance between the three Michigans. Each region gains or loses people based on forces that do not affect the others in the same way. One set of laws, three different senses of fairness. Michigan's government creates policies intended for a unified population, but the lived realities across the state complicate that assumption. A remote township in the Upper Peninsula that is losing residents faces challenges very different from a Detroit neighborhood dealing with vacancy and redevelopment, or a Grand Rapids suburb managing rapid growth. Statewide decisions on schools, taxes, infrastructure, and healthcare land differently in each region, shaping perceptions of fairness and representation. Residents in all three areas sometimes feel overlooked, but for entirely different reasons. In practice, the political state must manage three distinct sets of priorities under a single system. This tension fuels debates over funding, legislation, and long-term planning. It reinforces the idea that Michigan functions as multiple regions with unique needs rather than a single homogeneous entity. How a single map hides 3 Michigans in plain sight. A simple population change map reveals the truth instantly. Growth clusters in West Michigan and parts of the Southeast, stagnation covers the central and northern Lower Peninsula, and decline spreads across much of the Upper Peninsula. These trends reflect deep structural forces rather than temporary fluctuations. Each region is moving along a separate path shaped by demographics, climate, culture, economy, and migration. On paper, Michigan remains one state. In practice, it behaves like 3, each with its own trajectory and future. This is what it means to say Michigan has already become 3 different states without anyone formally redrawing a border. The divide is visible in the numbers, the landscapes, the cultures, and the lived experiences of people across the peninsula. It is a story hiding in plain sight on a map that most people never think to question.